Now that the World Series is over, and congratulations to former Mariners Taylor Trammell, Teoscar Hernandez, of course Chris Taylor also got a ring, Yohan Ramirez, James Paxton, etc. for winning the World Series and getting themselves a ring with the Dodgers, the Mariners can now finally start cooking. It's Jerry season, baby, and in this video, I'm going to go over some important dates in the 2024-2025 MLB offseason as it pertains to the Seattle Mariners, and it already started. As of October 31st, happy Halloween, the MLB offseason has officially begun, and we already got some of our first trades, some of our first option declines. Jorge Soler was traded this morning to the Los Angeles Angels from the Braves already. It's like day one of the offseason. It was insane. But for the Mariners, that means that they can now start making trades, making transactions, so it's time for Jerry to cook. However, that does mean that there's going to be some roster moves that need to be made, and that comes 5 days after the World Series ends, in which case that would be November 4th. That is the beginning of free agency in MLB. That means the Mariners would lose all the guys like Justin Turner, Jimmy Garcia, etc. that were set to be free agents after the 2024 season. November 4th is also the deadline to accept or decline team and player options. Now for the Mariners, this is just Mitch Haniger and Jorge Polanco. Mitch Haniger has a player option, meaning that he's the one who gets to make the choice. It's for $15.5 million. I think we can all expect that Mitch is going to pick that up and stay with the team this offseason. And as for Jorge Polanco, it's a $12 million team option. The Mariners are probably going to decline that. We're not 100% certain yet, but it seems pretty likely they will decline that option on Jorge Polanco, and then he will become a free agent. Now that is on November 4th, so just a couple of days away. And then the very next day, November 5th through the 7th, is the general manager meetings. Now a lot of times we won't see a ton of trades going on here, but all the general managers are at under one roof in a hotel, and that means that the groundwork for a lot of trades can start being set. All the managers and general managers can talk to each other about what kind of moves they want to make this offseason. We know that this is where Jerry Dipoto likes to start making his little meal. He's meal prepping, right? When he's at the general manager meetings. And then once we get to the winter meetings, which we'll talk about here in just a second, that's when sometimes we'll see quite a few trades go through. But before we get to the winter meetings, November 19th is the last day for players to accept or decline qualifying offers. Now, this doesn't really affect the Mariners because none of the guys like Jimmy Garcia and Justin Turner are good enough to get qualifying offers. It's going to be like $20-something million a year. So that's not going to happen. But if the Mariners do want to go out there and sign some of the guys that are going to be free agents this offseason, think about like Juan Soto, he will be getting the qualifying offer. And if the Mariners were to somehow magically sign one of these qualifying offer free agents, then that would mean they would lose one of their draft picks in the 2025 MLB draft. And then November 22nd is the non-tender deadline between teams and their arbitration eligible players. And the Mariners do have a few guys that are going to be affected by this. Going over the non-tender candidates, Austin Voth's the guy who has a decent chance to be non-tendered at $2.2 million. Josh Rojas at $4.3. Luis Urias is basically a lock to be non-tendered at $5 million. Other guys including JT Chargois, Trent Thornton, Sam Haggerty, Taylor Saucedo, Gabe Spire. All those guys are possible non-tender candidates for the Mariners as they look to save money going into 2025 and maybe reallocate those assets elsewhere. And a lot of times teams will non-tender guys that maybe are of some interest to the Mariners. You'll see teams like the Rays do that because they don't like spending a whole lot of money. It's very possible that we see Jarred Kelenic get non-tendered this offseason by the Atlanta Braves, and he could become a free agent. So just keep an eye out as we get closer to that November 19th deadline where teams could be, November 22nd deadline, where teams could be non-tendering some of their players that might be of interest to the Seattle Mariners. That brings us to the MLB winter meetings, which will be December 8th through the 12th down in Dallas. This is where a lot of moves get made. Everybody is under one roof, including players looking for contracts that are free agents, etc. And a lot of the groundwork that was laid at those GM meetings is turned into actual tangible trades. For the Mariners in 2023, you may remember a couple of them, but most notably, Jarred Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White were traded to Atlanta in the 2023 version of the MLB winter meetings. Deals do happen to get done at the winter meetings, although the Mariners have never been huge proponents of that. I think one of the biggest things I remember from the winter meetings is the Mariners signing Robinson Cano way back when in 2014 or whatever it was. I remember waking up every morning and watching the Hot Stove Show with Harold Reynolds on it. And yeah, I would just wait for something to happen. I don't know if that was during the winter meetings, but it certainly feels like it was. And the winter meetings are a time where a lot of moves happen in baseball. So expect the beginning of December to get really hot because a lot of teams want to have stuff done before they go on a little holiday vacation. The very last day of the winter meetings is also the Rule 5 draft. Now, for the Mariners, it looks like they only have 4 guys that are going to be Rule 5 draft eligible this year. That's right-handed pitcher Jason Ruffcorn, right-handed pitcher Jimmy Joyce, right-handed pitcher Jordan Jackson, and right-handed pitcher Travis Kuhn. I truly don't think any of them will get selected, although I guess Travis Kuhn's an option. For the team that is selecting them, they do have to keep him on their 26-man roster the entire year. So maybe they do decide to go with like Travis Kuhn and think at the back end of a bullpen, or maybe just like a middle reliever guy. He might make some sense, but in the end, none of these guys are like super big deals. It's more so 2025 that we have to worry about, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That Rule 5 draft next year, not really anything to worry about right now. However, the Mariners have been able to go out and find guys in the past. I think like Yohan Ramirez is one that kind of stands out to me in recent years. The Mariners went out and got him, and he was relatively decent for the team for quite a bit. And if he stays on the roster for the entirety of the year, the team that selected that player gets to keep him after that. And so for the Mariners, teams like the Rays often have a lot of like roster crunch where the Mariners or other teams can go in and select guys from their Rule 5 draft. So that's just something to keep an eye out for as well. After a long winter, February 14th, Valentine's Day, is usually when the Mariners and pitchers and catchers start to report down to Peoria for spring training. It feels like a millennia away, and I cannot wait for it. But as we get to Valentine's Day, there's nothing better to do on Valentine's Day when you're, alone. Then watch pitchers and catchers report to Peoria and hear the sights and sounds of spring training. And then February 21st is the first game of MLB spring training for the Seattle Mariners versus the San Diego Padres. Let me know what you guys want to see the Mariners do this offseason. I have a video talking about what I think they should do. Thank you guys for watching this one, and go Mariners.